This video was created for those who live in a poor community, especially African American community. The story we're about to tell is a story of a poor community that decided to create its own future, create its own destiny. This video is done in hope of inspiring those that live in poor communities throughout the United States that there is a approach to take to make sure that you're at the driver's seat and you're at the table and determine what your future look like. This video was produced a while back, but it's still relevant to today. So of course, the quality of this video is not going to be the best, but I think the content will get across of what we're trying to say. So before 1990, the West Tampa community was a community where neighborhood groups and shareholders refused to work together. And this is pre-West Tampa CDC. In the summer of 2001, I was hired uh, to develop a plan with the communities and shareholders that put the community in the driver's seat. As in most communities, a lot of good-hearted people come in, be it a university, the government, to try to change the conditions in the community. And time after time, when they leave, the condition is staying still the same. This time, in this plan, was about the community bringing in a consultant, its own consultant, to develop its plan, and then to bring in the different shareholders to get buy-in from public and private sector to the government to institutions of higher learning. All of these entities was brought in to let them know what their role can be in the plan. Let's continue. So change comes from within, and we keep talking about that. What we mean is that the West Tampa Initiative is based on a bottom-up approach to rebuilding the community. And we hear that so much about bottom-up. This plan shows what a bottom-up approach to rebuilding community looks like. So the West Tampa story: residents, neighborhood leaders, businesses, investors, lenders, government agencies, and other shareholders came together to change the narrative in West Tampa. This was a lot of people that came out to that meeting. Again, I apologize for the quality of the video. Dr. Fisher
Thank
runs
you
a
for taking
lifetime
time out
resident
from your busy schedule to.
and has been the CEO of the West Tampa CDC since its start in 1999. This is what we mean by a bottom-up approach, where the residents control their own future. She was the one, as well as the job committee that both need to, from Baltimore to Tampa, to change the narrative in West Tampa.
come out this evening. Thank you, Minister Jackson. I'm kind of trying to, uh, but today's meeting is going to focus on a seed that was planted in 1999 by business leaders, residents, community leaders, some politicians, educators, and other shareholders. These people saw a need to make a difference in West Tampa. The West Tampa CDC because I do really thank you for coming out, but I will mention them at this time. We have Ruth McNair, who was from the West Riverfront Association.
The most important advice that we can give in starting your community initiative is make sure you bring together all of the civic neighborhood groups that's been fighting in that community to transform that community. Make sure your first stop is to mobilize and organize the community around the plan before the plan is actually produced.
Mrs. Pilar Kahala from Northeast McFarland, Robert Allen from North Hyde Park, and Rick Caldavello, who's the president of the West Tampa Chamber of Commerce. And you are going to hear from them a little later. Today's event will focus on our vision and mission. I cannot think of a better person to explain that approach than a person who leads our economic development initiative. Many of you have seen Michael around.
Actually, I have led the Economic Development Initiative since its inception. And again, Dr. Fisher, I want to thank the West Tampa community for bringing me on board, as well as the West Tampa CDC. I think the one thing that everybody in the community knows is that I'm here from the beginning to the end. That I believe that transformation comes through an empowered community. And that empowered community means everybody benefits from the senior citizen to the low income to the high income. Everybody benefits in the transformation of their community.
Many of you have worked with him, and you really have not heard that much about Michael. And I'd like to share some things this evening about Michael. Michael has worked for more than 20 years in community development. He has served on several national committees, including the West Baltimore Federal Empowerment Zone. He has worked with the Sandtown Transformation Initiative, the Safe and Sound Initiative, the Job Plus Federal Employment Initiative, the West Side Empowerment Career Center, the John Hopkins School of Social Policy Urban Crisis. He has served on the White House panel on lessons learned in community development. He's also served with the Enterprise Foundation National Conference, also on lessons learned in urban development.
That diamond. You get that as soon as you clean it off, shine it up, that piece of coal becomes that diamond. When the CDC came in, it was like God sent because that helped us further the next step of what we needed to do. We worked with the city, which was great, but to have something that was centralized to West Tampa that helped West Tampa only was the best thing to come around. One of the projects that we
This is what we call community buy-in. When you got neighborhood leaders coming up to testify the importance of your well-being. She's going to talk about a piece of code that we were able to do back then called um, the West Tampa. Um, I can't think of the word. She'll talk about it, then I'll come back.
Did with the CDC was the overlay. It was
Yes, the West Tampa overlay. What was unique about the overlay is that prior to West Tampa, no community had ever created its own model for what a overlay district should look like. And the overlay district basically dictates how buildings should look in the whole 9 yards. This is the first for the West Tampa. And this goes to show the type of people in West Tampa, some truly leaders, everyday people that's doing extraordinary things in order to make sure that they empower their community. Again, I can't emphasize it was the first time. Because any other time, the city will come in and start the overlay process.
something that someone that we've heard said that was impossible for us to do to get done, but it's been done. January of last year, the overlay was added to Chapter 27 of the city ordinances. The overlay now is a growing, continuing document. It's always going to change. We had to start out with a foundation because a lot of things were happening in West Tampa that we basically wanted to have control of. The people in this community wanted to be respected, and they
I can't overemphasize what the community looked like before the West Tampa CDC engaged and began to change the narrative. It was a community that was overlooked, wasn't respected. Some will say that because it was a largely African American area that we're talking about. But we changed that narrative when we came on board. This is what we call community empowerment at the bottom level. You have to have community, then you have to have a doable work plan that is markable, feasible, plausible, sustainable, and one that is fundable. Those are the two ingredients to creating a community empowerment initiative in any community, including a low income community.
wanted to make sure that by using the laws of the city that the people who come in the community respect it, unfortunately, but that's what we had to do. We hope that if you would like to get involved in our neighborhood association, I'll be here in the meeting and I can talk to you about some of the other further things that we have done. We have
It's Janice Dula, and I'm a native of West Texas.
Oh, Janice. Janice has left us since coming to the CDC, but let me give you a little bit about Janice, my girl, um, how she got engaged with the CDC, West Tampa CDC. So I met her over at the West Tampa library. I was in there doing something, and I was telling the librarian about a meeting we want to do and bring together the community. And Janice walked up to me and say, "Hey, I didn't know y'all provide those type of services." So I said, "Look, why don't you come on over? And we're just getting started and share with you what those services are." The one thing Janice told me, and she was working as a um, waitress, and she was saying to me, "Mike, I'm so tired of having to work on my feet, and I want to change I want to change my economic outlook, so I don't have to keep on waiting on people." So Janice was very inspiring, and she decided that, "Look, Mike, I want to do voluntary work," because she wanted to learn the ins and outs of being a secretary. And we did it. We brought Janice on as a volunteer. We showed her all of the steps necessary, to run a particular office from the front office. Janice eventually was brought on as an employee. This is what we talk about community empowerment. Janice went on to go to college, uh, get her degree, and then she went on to get a job working in the industry of helping people. Janice passed away, unfortunately, to cancer. But Janice represents the type of empowerment that we're talking about from the bottom up, from the person in the streets that needs something to the person in the streets that is now economically independent.
Tampa. First, I want to thank God for allowing me to be a part of the West Tampa CDC and changing the future of my community. Second, I want to thank Dr. Fisher and Michael Randolph for having faith in me. And I also want to thank the board members for granting me this opportunity. Before coming to the CDC, I had no experience in working in a professional setting. Since being with the CDC, I have learned new job skills such as typing, greeting the public, data entry, scanners, and the Microsoft family. I have attended various meetings and I have met all type of important people like the Mayor Pam IR, Councilwoman Miller, Councilwoman Everest, and Councilman White. I know the road is going to be long for me, but I'm like a sponge. I want to soak up everything about this corporation so I can continue to help my community. Thank you, and God bless you.
So it's critical that you bring in two very important sectors. One is the private sector, and the other is the public sector. We were able to be successful because we understood how to build relationships with the private sector, including lenders as well, the lenders as well as investors, and understand the language in the conversation.
Been lucky to have Michael Fair. She now has her own business and is going through her fourth or fifth feature film. That's the kind of story we want to create here. And when we talked to Michael, and one of the statistics that Michael told us is, I did some research and I found out that 30% of the people in the West Tampa area are already involved in a creative enterprise. Now, whether that means art, singing, dancing, or whatever creative there.
Now, this guy right here wanted to bring a Hollywood-like studio to the West Tampa area. And like I said, we believe in connecting with the private sector. So we approached him and told him, felt that if we were a partner in that deal, that the deal would be even sweeter. And he understood the value of that. That's why it's important. And when you're in poor communities, you understand your value when you're partnershiping with the private sector. And that was a sweet deal. The deal didn't come through, but had it come through, and the deal didn't come through because there was another bidder that outbid him, but had it come through, it was an example of public-private relationship where the community represented itself with developers instead of going through a second person.
They're already here. They're in that kind of industry. So he turns to me and he says, so if you can create the jobs, I got the people. And that's what we want to try to do.
This is another deal working with the private sector. This is a housing development deal. One of the sweet things about the deal was that the West Tampa CDC negotiated with this developer in order to bring something back to the community. The deal was that this developer will build his houses, and in turn, he would build the West Tampa CDC a employment center. The idea being that in order to offset the high price housing that was coming in to the community, we would create an employment center to give people the skill sets in order to afford it. Unfortunately, if you remember the bubble bust, and this deal never really finalized. The other deal we did back then was a deal with the developer that was doing high-end houses. In turn, what he did with negotiation with us was to create um, a fund that would be $650,000 that will go towards individuals in the West Tampa area that were low to moderate income that needed help with a closing costs. So that on top of the closing costs that the city provided, the county provided, this would be another layer in order to increase the affordability of the house. I want to give a shout out to the mayor back then, who's Mayor Pam Riviorio, and I'm always pronouncing her name incorrectly. But what she did was to say to the developers that if you're going to West Tampa, meet with the West Tampa CDC, because she, like us, believe in if you want to reduce gentrification, you have to reduce it on purpose. So creating that public-private relationship, which reduce the impact of gentrification, is a plus.
Unions, and we're very excited about this team. We're focused currently on building residential homes in the heart of West Tampa, and we're very excited about this effort, and I'm very pleased to be here to share it with you. Our approach, and I have to look at my cue over here because I'm not our approach is investment must be focused to be successful. That we must put homeowners in the neighborhoods, that we have a housing product that is consistent with the legacy of West Tampa and the housing, historic housing there, and that our financial commitment is substantial and aggressive. And so to the very first point, I can show you that we are focused in an 8-block.
Frankly, it's entrepreneurship. What?
Here's another public-private partnership. The gentleman that's speaking is with this agency called Prepaid Legal. And back during that time, everybody was buying prepaid legal. So we had a conversation with him to say that African poor communities are the ones that mostly find these type of legal service, free legal services. Therefore, we want a partnership with you so we get a fee for everybody in West Tampa that decides to get that service. Again, I can't overemphasize using a public-private relationship and understanding how to negotiate and bring back the bacon to your community.
What makes projects like yours work is cash. And what generates cash are people who are motivated by being a business owner. In other words, build your own dreams versus build somebody else's dreams. See, you're a business owner. Profits are better than wages. Now, after your meeting here tonight, I'm going to hang around. Those of you who would like to hear a short presentation, about a 15-minute, we're going to have a meeting after the meeting. But the whole thing is designed to put people in business themselves at a price they can afford, and at the same time, a piece of those profits helping the CDC. It's a fantastic concept we've put together. I'd love to share it with you.
Thank you, sir. We're literally talking the CDC will be able to bring in tens of thousands of dollars. That's a part of this deal right here. Again, it's all about the private sector coming to the nonprofit sector, and we're thinking like a business for the community. Social development. In terms of social development, we're looking at essentially 5 things. So let me share with you what you're looking at now. The West Tampa CDC has a comprehensive, holistic, integrated approach to rebuilding community. We think that there are 3 important legs in order to create and transform a community. The first is economic development. The second is social development, and the third is physical development. Physical development can be anywhere from affordable housing to open space, etc. So again, economic development, social development and physical development. Here I'm talking about the social development component of that proposal, our proposal. Community, building, health, the environment, public safety, and youth. Talking about youth. We have a person that's going to be partnering with the CDC that's done a lot of national things as it relates to youth. Ms. Siegel, would you come up please and give your brief presentation because everybody's looking at me like. Again, we believe in not inventing the wheel, but bringing in different partners that do different things, as long as it falls within the mission of the strategic plan. So in this respect, we're bringing on this lady that's talking about youth. We actually went for a grant and got it and created a youth program for the young people that's in West Tampa. That program was part of our social development plan. How long?
Very quick. My name is
Okay, so the other key component we talked about is partnership with lenders. In one such relationship, we partner with the Federal Credit Union. Since then, and during that time, we have partnership with Bank of America, and those other banks. Right now, I'm on brain dead, but you know all those popular banks.
This project is what I would consider the finest model of public-private partnerships. Um, what we have um, what we have prepared here is a listing of what we offer the West Tampa community as credit union housing partners, but it's also what we will offer all of the residents of West Tampa as well as East Tampa. The two credit unions have received from the National Credit Union Association Underserved Community Charter, and an Underserved Community Charter allows the credit unions to provide open membership to folks who are living in West Tampa, who work in West Tampa, as well as worship in West Tampa.
I'm Vice President of Community Development for Regions Bank here, and
Yeah, we even bought in this bank as well.
I told Michael he could get a New York minute, so I'm going to just describe a couple of the programs that we have at Regions Bank and a couple of the other affiliate programs that we are members of. We do have construction acquisition, rehab loans. They can also be for programs for microloans for the small businesses that are around here as well. And the pre-development fund, the maximum is $100,000. It's for nonprofits only. We also partner with lending consortia in the area for the state actually. One of those is the Florida Community Loan Fund, and that again is for nonprofit developers. We are partners with Neighborhood Lending, which is based here in Tampa, and they do loans for commercial as well as multifamily projects. That's for non-for-profits and for-profits. And we're also members of LISC, and you'll hear about LISC a little bit later when Diana Kyle comes up. One other thing that we can tap into as a funding source is some grant opportunities. I know you do a lot of that, Michael. We can work with you to look at some facade improvements, especially now with the Main Street initiative that you have. So that kind of gives you a New York minute of the programs that we offer at Regions Bank. I put some.
So we actually started a Main Street initiative way back then. Right now, West Tampa is going through a Main Street initiative now that we fully intend to be a part of that initiative to make sure that especially residents benefit from business opportunity on Main Street.
Some of my information on one of the tables and my contact information is there as well. Thank you.
It is about the possibilities and about bringing resources to the table in order to make it happen, in order to be sustainable. One of the ways that we're doing this is the traditional way in terms of grants. We will always pursue grants. The other thing we're doing is a fee for service. As we become better at doing our business classes for those that are coming from out the community, we'll be charging a fee to those individuals in order to sustain what we do. The other thing we do is act as a developer and get development fees. Ray Horner from our office We're going to talk about our housing project that's coming up, and we get 10% for each house that we build. The other thing is the consultant fee. We position ourselves to be a consultant to work with the non. So this, because that's kind of unclear, but basically, because of the sound, basically what it is that we're looking at. We was looking at creating what's known as a social enterprise, at looking at bringing in monies from different types, revenue from different components, be it development fees, fee for services, and we did a lot of fee for services. Um, so consultant fee, we understood that as we became real good at what we did, we could go to other places and charge a fee and bring that money back to the community. But this talks about some of those ways of bringing in different revenue streams. Since then, if you look at us now, fast forward, we have included this plus way more as an social enterprise approach to funding our services and projects. The profit sector in order to generate some type of funds. You're going to be hearing about some of those things we're doing with the. We made sure that we got engagement from every level of the federal government. We talked earlier about the private sector. Now we sharing the how we tapped into the local, county, state, and federal government. Again, we believe in using a holistic approach to um, to rebuilding the community. I can't overemphasize that everybody that came to this meeting and heard our plan, that is the plan that the community created, was overwhelmed by the plan. Again, it was one of the first times a community hired its own consultant to create its own plan and sat at the head of the table and then brought in others to sit at the table, be it the federal government, the private sector, etc. This is what we call a bottom-up approach.
Do with your community. I can assure you the Senator shares your goal for creating a strong and healthy community here. I have to caution you that there are limited federal resources available, and there is a lot of competition for those resources from other communities in Florida and states across the nation. But this is region that the Senator is very proud to represent and looks forward to working with you on it. Just from what I've seen here tonight, I can tell you that you do have some things going for you which will make this project much easier to sell to federal agencies and federal lawmakers.
That's one of the most important things about a plan. It's got to be sellable. And what we did that night was to sell the plan to the world. I cannot overemphasize and thank the residents of West Tampa coming together, setting up at the table and doing its own plan and creating the table and then bringing the people to the table and not the other way around.
The fact that it was developed with input from the local residents in the community is vital, and that they buy in on it and that they're excited about it. The fact that it's a private-public partnership, not reliant exclusively upon government dollars, will help make this a viable plan in selling it to federal agencies. Assuming it has the support of the local elected officials, your city, county, and state representatives. I've not yet heard from them, so I would need feedback from them on it, of course. But those are all selling points that will make this project easier for the Senator to sell on the Hill, and I look forward to working with you as his representative on this and other projects in the future. Thank you.
Our next speaker is John Kynes, representing our U.S. Congress.
Congressman Davis will work closely with the other local representatives here from both the city government and the state government, and yourself and Senator Nelson in trying to help the community achieve its goals. Michael, I want to congratulate you and everyone involved in putting this together, and I look forward to getting a copy of it as soon as you can get us one. This really is about empowering local residents. And this community, as much as any other community in our city, has been very, very patient. And I truly hope that this comes to fruition and that everyone will, both in the public and private sector, will achieve its goals. And certainly you can depend on our office to be with you and work with you, whether it's to try to get CDBG funds or work with other nonprofits, LISC, and the city certainly on its various goals. We will be there, and I look forward to working with you all. Thank you for inviting our office here tonight. Thank you.
Our next speaker is State Senator Les Miller. I must say this about our senator. He donated the first $1,000 to our city.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Senator Miller. I didn't have $1,000, so I gave them to John.
Thing has been said about what's happening here in West Tampa and with the CDC here in West Tampa. And one of the things I heard Senator Martinez's office said, when they have support of the local elected officials, I guarantee you that they will have the support of local elected officials, whether it's city, county, or state, both House and Senate. And you're going to hear probably from Representative Enriquez. This community has been a black community, I said blight, not black, blight community for many years. And to have an organization that comes in now and get started on some state funds that have now taken a nonprofit status and starting to work with a profit status and doing the things that it's doing is to be congratulated, but it still has a long way to go. And I think Mr. Randolph pointed out some figures to you of how people are living in this community that are still living below the poverty level, and there's still unemployment in this area. And they're trying their very best to educate people. They're trying their very best to give people the opportunity to have jobs and or create their own businesses. And that's vitally important. So as long as I'm sitting in the position I'm in now, or whether I go to something else in the very near future, I will be here working with this organization because it's vitally important not only to West Tampa, but to the city of Tampa and also to Hillsborough County and the state of Florida, because everyone wants to live in a home, have a picket fence around that home, and something fresh and refrigerated when they get home, and that's vitally important to them. So congratulations on what you're doing. My office will always be there for you. We'll never, ever give up. Sometimes there might be bumps.
Very good. I want to, again, congratulate you on this remarkable effort. Some 80 years ago, my great-grandfather, who was the last mayor of West Tampa, turned over West Tampa back to the city of Tampa. And when that took place, he made very ball coach once upon a time that told me that a blaze starts with a spark. And this is the spark that I believe will revitalize West Tampa. And that's a key term, revitalization, because it's happening from within. So most often, we talk about redevelopment within neighborhoods, but at that point, an area is so blighted that someone goes back in and compiles all the land and they make it into something else completely different. And that's what's happened in some other communities within our own area. But this is real, true revitalization from within, using those folks that have toiled here for many years, that they'll be part of this vision. And I want to again thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for your support over the years. It's as though we've watched this baby that was born in your office continue to grow. And I look forward to many, many more years of seeing this vision come to fruition. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker, representing our very fine mayor, is Ms.
And first, let me say,
I do want to give a shout out to the mayor, Pam Iota. And that what she did when she um, got in office was to make a commitment to West Tampa that the CDC will be partnering with the city to reduce gentrification. What was unique that she did, she convened a meeting with all of her top head of agency with the city. I mean, all of the top ones to let them know to give West Tampa CDC a um, uh, to put West Tampa CDC on the radar. So when we call one of these agencies, they already knew. This effort was successful because it was the same thing that was done in Baltimore when I was in Baltimore in the late 1990s, when then Mayor Smoke created the same type of focus on targeted resources to a particular neighborhood in Baltimore, and that neighborhood was the Sandtown community. He too, like the man did here in Tampa, put all of his executive officers to the table and say, if this particular neighborhood calls, you know what to do. So I want to thank the mayor for that, and I'm hoping that the current mayor, um, Jane, gets a Jane Castor, she gets a copy of this, and that we get the same type of apology. Although we want to thank her, the current mayor, because what she did do was to create a situation where the community had an opportunity to engage with the private sector, in this case, related to the Tampa Housing Authority, that was doing a deal in Rome Yard to do affordable housing. She made sure that we was at the table and doing the negotiation when those deals were being made. And out of that deal for West Tampa came the Technology, Wealth Building, and Job Creation Center. I'll talk about that in another time. But one of the things it's going to do, and this is recent, what I'm talking about now, one of the things we talked about is creating what's known as a home-based e-commerce center that will create anywhere between 50 to 70 jobs over the next 5 years for resident owners, but especially African Americans, because African Americans represent 3% of the African Americans represent 3% of businesses in West Tampa, and we want to change that around by creating the home building. I mean, the job-based, home-based, and e-commerce center. This gives an opportunity for anybody to have started their own business from a senior citizen on up. We'll talk more about that. But what we did with this home-based e-commerce is to monetize whatever talent you have and convert it into a business. So whether you're a senior citizen, low income, um, um, no income, or whatever, that we provide that as a way to get out. But I'm diverting because we're talking about this particular meeting here.
That I'm very proud to be working for Mayor Iorio and to be having the honor of representing her today. I think that one thing that is her theme is that she listens to the people, she listens to the neighborhoods. I've worked in a number of local and also at the federal level up north and here now in Tampa, and I think what you often hear is that government knows what's best for you. We don't believe in that. We believe that what the citizens and what the neighborhood associations, and especially now working with the CDC, you need to tell us what services we can provide. Now, speaking for myself and for my departments, I think, Dr. Fisher, you already know, if I can be the conduit of information, that is my goal. If I can bring the folks together at City Hall, because we're terrible at talking to each other within City Hall. You know how hard it is for you to all find each other. Sometimes we have the same problem too. So my mission is to make sure that we get the right people at the table, whether it's my department or another department. And let me also mention one other thing. We've talked a lot about bringing new business in.
Is going to be a good that it's been so long in coming because it's West Tampa has been neglected for so many years, like Representative Henriquez said, but it stopped, and now we have the ear of the mayor. And Cindy, you know that I will be at your side, and you know that I will be talking to you. All you got to do, Michael, is call me and let me know, just like you did the last time. We got those permits going, and
My LOS was the city council person then, and she was one of my favorite city council people. All I needed to do was pick up the phone and say, "Hey, we got problems," and she said, "Who, when," and that was it.
you got to do is call, and that goes for anybody in this area because my district, my office is.
I think the CDC, West Tampa CDC, came into the game like gangsters, and that we actually created our own plan and let people know that we wasn't going to back down. That this was the plan. You either part of it or you're not. And we was able to mobilize so many different resources and so many partners. I remember when we was doing a negotiating meeting with one of the developers, and one of the team players that were part of the West Tampa team was saying after the person left was, "Hey Mike, you handled that like you was like a godfather, right?" You know. But anyway, that goes to show we real serious with what we do. And sometimes you got to be gangsters for your community to let people know that it's our way or the highway.
Always open. My phone number is 274-7074. We've got Desiree on the line all the time. She's constantly working for the West Tampa area as well as my other areas of this. But West Tampa is the heart. It's my heart. And we want to make sure that this heart keeps beating. Thank you so much.
We believe that including the private sector and the public sector, you also have to partner with institutions of higher learning.
All the energy and the dynamics and the possibilities. And all of those are here tonight. The reality of what people were talking about and what the CDC was embarking on is happening now. And what you've got here is the three ingredients that make a community successful. You have a plan, you have partners, and you have leadership. You've got it all going for you. I'm very proud and privileged to be able to be a partner here with the University of South Florida and working in the community to the Jim Walter Partnership Center. We believe in being out in the community, engaging the community, and asking the community, how can the university help? It comes from a community-based perspective. So far, that commitment is so strong that I was able to work with the university and our university office, our engagement community office is here in West Tampa, next to the West Tampa CDC. We've also brought in our partners from FAMU and the Schimberg Center for Affordable Housing. So we're bringing in partners into this community to help all of us make West Tampa a better community for all of us.
This is a national organization that focus on affordable housing. They're primarily down south, but they are a major player in the game. They were so impressed with us that we got a grant from them. In addition, and we got a grant from them in terms of gap money when we was doing a housing deal. And they were so impressed because we was able to create affordable housing in West Tampa and bring in, and we West Tampa was the first for a lot of things. I talked about the overlay district, but the other thing that was a first, in addition to creating our own plan, the other first was that we showed what could be done on very small lots. West Tampa had a lot of lots that people thought was so small that you couldn't do a deal. We brought in a designer and a planner and a developer to create a product that showed that you could do that, and we was the first. This also provided support in terms of training. They were so impressed with us that they wanted us definitely to be part of their conversation when they go around the country talking about what works in communities.
She's in trouble now. LISC is a national nonprofit, and what our job is to provide best practices for the neighborhoods. We will be bringing in some new concepts for the community, and we hope that you will listen to Dr. Fisher and to Michael with very open minds, because in order for your community to survive, you're going to have to do some very creative things. For instance, your community might have to start owning homes, and when you can let someone live in that home permanently, but they would own it so that someone else who needed an affordable home could buy it in the future. That's going on across the United States.
I think what was unique about this conversation is that Les came in thinking they was teaching us new ideas, new innovative approach. They didn't know we had already looked at best practices and lessons learned from around the country. That's how we created our 5-year plan. As a matter of fact, this also is focused in terms of what they call community holistic approach to rebuilding community. If you notice now, this is focused on economic, social, and physical development all together, instead of a single holistic approach of affordable housing. We use that comprehensive holistic approach because you have to be able to deal with all those system failures. So we use both a programmatic as well as a systematic approach to change the narrative. Well, now we into 2023. It's the rebirth of West Tampa. We're doing some awesome things now based on the lessons learned over the years. Look forward to hearing more about us. We got a community meeting coming up on the 30th of this month or the 31st. We're going to talk about the West Tampa CDC current day. And we're going to talk about the Technology, Wealth Building, and Job Curation Center. Some of the things that's coming out of the Technology Center is using artificial intelligence and chat GPT and those other technology to uplift and use that as a way for regular, ordinary people can use to enhance their quality of life. We're also talking about teaching game application, codes, mobile applications, all of those different types of technology that you normally don't find in poor communities. The wealth building part of what we're doing focus on creating generational wealth. And one way in terms of creating what we call a Black Wall Street in the heart of West Tampa. Again, we go back to the fact that only 3% of African Americans own their own business. With this home-based e-commerce approach, we'll be able to increase those numbers in West Tampa and really creating a thriving Black economic community. So please don't forget to join us. This is what we do. The takeaways from this is that I don't care where you at, what community you are, your community has value. Let me share something with you. Poor communities is big money. So once you understand how to use your poor money community, you can make big money to change it. Again, poor people are big business. And when you turn around and use some poor people to make big business, and that's exactly what we're doing from the ground up, we're showing residents how valuable they are. And that when they create the plan, and if it's a doable buy-in plan, they can change the narrative. Thank you so much. This was a pop-up live video. You know, I've been doing this from time to time, but I hope it does bring some excitement into the lives of those communities throughout the United States to know that, yeah, you can change your narrative. Here's another important thing. Ownership means if you're going to create a community development corporation, ownership means that at least 51% of the residents on that board of directors lives in the community.